Well, welcome to the First Baptist Buffalo Community Group discussion and summary. Today we are kind of changing our channels just a little bit. We've been working through the book of Jonah and we completed Jonah last week. And that brings us into Acts. Now we've been in Acts for almost 4 years in total. I hope no one has gotten too tired of it because we could make it a lot longer. There's just so much rich theology and so much great church history in it. But just a bit of a reminder on how we got to Acts 23 verses 12 to 22. If you remember, Paul, of course, goes into Jerusalem. There's this big ruckus. The Roman soldiers come in and save the day. They're about ready to beat up on Paul. They find out that he's a Roman citizen. So then they again call the Sanhedrin together. They have an unofficial meeting. That doesn't end well. And so Paul begins to go back into prison. And now the discussion has been that they are going to, of course, move Paul. And there is, in Acts 23, verses 12 to 22, a plot uncovered to kill Paul while he travels to Rome. Now, this plot is uncovered, of course, by Paul's nephew. And this text is really interesting because it shows a few things that I believe are of real importance to the Christian. Number one, we know that God is in control. We're also reminded that God will get us where He wants, in the means He wants, and He'll do so in a way so as to allow His plan to be achieved. In other words, human beings cannot thwart God's plan. Human beings cannot fight against the will of God. But again, I think we should key in our discussion of how God intervenes to protect, how God intervenes to deliver, and how God accomplishes His will, whether someone is committed to Him or whether they are not. This is a fairly simple text, and it's something that I believe we do need to seriously consider, though. It also gives us the bigger picture of God accomplishing His plan throughout the book of Acts. God's goal was to make sure that the world heard the message of salvation. Paul ultimately isn't going to Rome to defend himself, but to defend the gospel, calling us once again to the words of Peter to always be ready to give a defense, and relying also on the words of Jude. Be ready to defend the faith that was once delivered. Outside of that, this text really just continues on in that narrative of the book of Acts. So I hope some of this summary has been helpful, and I hope some of this application is something that you can all deal with. Thanks again for checking in on the community groups, and I hope that you're having a really good time growing together. Again, I want to challenge you to be honest, to be open, and be willing to share, and also ask for requests as you deal with and struggle with the text. Thanks a lot.